Okay. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Shwapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jutapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Shahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namoste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Vancha Kalpatarubhya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Panglungam Payate Girim Jat Kripa Tamaham Vande Sri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyeshwara Vande Nantadbhutaishwaryam Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Nichopi Yat Prasadat Shat Bhakti Shastra Pravarta Hare Krishna. So everybody can open their videos. Hare Krishna. So how many of you here who have watched the recordings that I sent this morning for yesterday's class? The opener of the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Please raise your hands. Okay, I got no response. I hope that you watch that later. Okay, if you haven't watched it, so please watch it. So you will get the connection between that recordings and our tonight's session. Yeah. So all right, just briefly mentioning about that recordings that I sent this morning. That in the beginning of chapter 5, Arjuna again asking question about his bewilderment, yeah, as if he was bewildered. Yeah. Please tell me one thing. So Arjuna was confused about what should I do now, Krishna? You tell me different things. Should I work in devotion or renounce my work? But actually, detachment and devotional service actually leading to one goal, which is Krishna. Yeah. Ultimately, why we have to be detached from the material world is to attach ourselves to Krishna. So it is described also Arjuna's bewilderment is not for his own benefit, but it's all for our benefit. Yeah. So he was asking those questions is only for our benefit. And after Krishna was explaining about clarifying his confusion, so Krishna described about the symptoms of Niskama Karma Yoga. Yeah. Person who are dedicating his activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore he's not at all attached with the reaction, karmic reaction. So having said that, when we talk about activities, so there's no any result is awarded by Krishna, and any activities is sanctioned by Krishna. So now we know that the devotees being akarmi means those who are in action. Yeah, devotees means performing activities, but there is no material result. Therefore, we are known as the And what about those who are karmis and vikarmis? And when they perform some activities, for example, the vikarmis, when they perform sinful activities, of course, nothing can be done without the sanction of the Lord, right? And then who's responsible for that activities? Should we blame Krishna? For example, I'm performing sinful activities because the understanding is that nothing can be done without the sanction of the Lord. So because Krishna sanctioned that sinful activities to be done by me, now if I get the reaction, if I get the punishment, whom should I blame? Because ultimately Krishna gave the sanction. So when we talk about activities, so we will talk about who's responsible for the activities. Therefore, the continuation of that recordings, if you watch it, is this one. Yeah. Relationship between Ishwara, Jiwa, and Prakriti. Yeah. So the topic here is that from text 13 to 16, the transcendentalist who works with attachment has knowledge of relationship between the living entity, material nature, and the supersoul. Although the modes of nature or the supersoul may appear to be the cause of action and reaction, okay, they are not responsible. As I mentioned, that if I do something, ultimately Krishna sanctioned it through the arrangement of the three modes of material nature. That means the cause of action is Krishna. But when I do some sinful activity, why I should be responsible for that? And then when the living entity desires to enjoy material nature, the modes carry out the necessary actions with the permission of the supersoul. So ultimately, Krishna is the supersoul, give the permission that action to be done. Yeah. Okay. Text number 13. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all action, he resides happily in the city of the nine gates, yeah, the material body known as the city with the nine gates, neither working nor causing work to be done. This is for a detached person. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada mentioned the body consists of the nine gates, two eyes, two nostrils, two ears, one mouth, the anus, and the genitals. Actually, this is more elaborately explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the section of King Puranjana, yeah, in the fourth canto of the city of the nine gates. Very nicely explained there. Yeah. Text number 14. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. So we, as the pure living entity, pure spirit souls, we don't create any activities. It's only the body, right? It's only the body. Everything is arranged by the Prakriti. Yeah. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasa. So gunai karmani sarvasa. All activities is actually directed by the modes of material nature. So we, the spirit souls, actually remain aloof. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada explained, one suffers the result of the activities of the body by identifying himself in ignorance with the body. So now the question may raise, if we don't perform activities as spirit soul, why we suffer or enjoy the fruits of our actions? So the answer is here, because we identify ourselves with the body. It is ignorance acquired from time immemorial that is the cause of the bodily sufferings and distress. As soon as the living entity becomes aloof from the activities of the body, he becomes free from the reactions as well. Srila Prabhupada continued, as long as he is in the city of the body, he appears to be the master of it, but actually he is neither its proprietor nor controller of its action and reactions. He is simply in the midst of material ocean, struggling for existence. Yeah, struggling for existence. Mama ivam sujiva aloke jiva bhuta sanasa. Manasastan indriyani prakriti stani karsati. So prakriti stani karsati, that means we are struggling for existence. The waves of the ocean are tossing him and he has no control over them. his best solution is to get out of the water by transcendental Krishna consciousness. That alone will save him from all turmoil. Yeah, this is from Srila Prabhupada's purport. So there are a few points here, importance point here, that when, because Krishna is explaining here that the eternal spirit soul, he's remained pure. The, the soul itself is pure, yeah, untouched. Soul is untouched by anything actually. Nainam chindanti sastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantiapo, na so shayati maruta. The soul cannot be cut into pieces by any weapon, sastra, by any weapon. That means the soul is untouched. Nainam dahati pavakaha, cannot be burned by fire. Na chainam kledayantiapo, cannot be moistened, cannot be wet by water, cannot be dried up by wind. That means the soul is untouched. So untouched by anything. That means the soul remain pure. Therefore, Krishna mentioned here, he doesn't create activities. But when we perform some sinful activities, we get the reaction. Why we suffer? So Srila Prabhupada nicely explaining, due to our attachment and identifying ourselves with the body, then we feel happiness and distress pertaining to the body. But the soul is always aloof from this material body. Let me give you an example. Okay, we see here Radha Kanta Prasad Prabhu. He's driving. Okay, he's driving. So he's inside the car. Okay, he's inside the car. Let's say
Yes,
his car
Prabhu.
is Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I am coming from office.
Yes, yes. I'm using you as a nice example here in this relationship. Yeah. Yeah. So, for example, Radhakanta Prabhu is the soul and his car is the body. Okay. So he actually eternally separate entity from the car. But hopefully not. Okay, hopefully not. If something happened on the road, hopefully not. He got accident and his car got scratched, got damaged. But he's all right. Okay, he's all right. Nothing happened to him. Not even a scratch, no bleeding, nothing. Only his car damaged. Because of his attachment to his car, now he's feeling that, oh, Krishna, what happened to me? He feels the pain, although nothing happened to him. The car is damaged, but his body, Radhakanta Prabhu, is all right. But because the car is damaged, and due to his strong attachment to the car, so now he's thinking that, oh my God, why this has happened to me? But actually nothing happened to him. So similarly, the pure spirit soul, he is pure, okay? He's aloof from the body. But when he identifies himself with the body, too attached with the body, when this body gets suffering, so the spirit soul artificially also feels the pain. Okay. So the car and the person and Radhakanta Prabhu is separate. But when the car got scratched, so Radhakanta Prabhu feels the pain, although he is not bleeding. So that's the answer. Yeah. So the soul doesn't create any activities. It's just the three modes of material nature, arrange everything, prakriti kriya manani, and when the body gets some miseries, so due to strong attachment and identification, false identification, the soul feels suffering. Prakriti stanikar sati. We are struggling in this material world. Okay. And Prabhupada explained the best way how to get out from the miseries is that just to get out from the material world. And how to do that is through Krishna consciousness. Tesam aham samudaram rityu samsara sagara bhavamina chirat pastam maya vishita chetasam. Krishna says, Tesam aham samudaram rityu samsara sagar. I will become the swift deliverer for those who surrender to me. Yeah, for those who surrender to me from the material existence. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada many times he give example that One may be very expert in swimming, but if he is in the ocean, there's big wave, there are sharks, whales, wild animals in the ocean, then dangers is always there, although one is very expert swimmer. But if there is someone, helping him from the top so he can be saved, and that's only through Krishna consciousness, to get out from this material ocean of birth and death. Yeah. And then text 15, nor does the Supreme Lord assume one sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of ignorance which covers their real knowledge. So who's actually really responsible for our reaction, for the especially the sufferings due to our sins? Who's actually responsible? Because here everything is done by Krishna. Without Krishna's sanction, nothing can be done, right? But who's responsible? Still, we, the independent jiwa, responsible for that reaction. Although Krishna gives the sanction, Krishna already warned us that if you do this, this is the consequences. So we being independent, we choose, okay, no problem, I'll responsible. And boom, here we are. Yeah. Oops. The Sanskrit word Vibhu means the Supreme Lord who is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. He is always satisfied in himself, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities. This is nicely explained in the Sri Isopanishad. Yeah. The Lord is Sudam Apapavidam. It is described there. Sudam Apapavidam. Sudam means pure, Apapa means untouched by sin. Apapa and Vidam, untouched by pious activities. Yeah. Therefore, he is always pure. Therefore, he is not responsible for our sinful reactions. Although he sanctioned the activities, yet he warned us before giving the sanction. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is Vibhu or omniscient, but the living entity is Anu or atomic. That's the difference. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with a circumstantial material body and becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. So this is from Srila Prabhupada's purport. Nicely explained here by Srila Prabhupada that the Lord is omniscient, yeah, and the living entity is atomic. Yeah, it is actually connected to the 13th chapter, etc., etc. Gya, etc. Gyam chapimam vidi sarva, etc. Subhadata, etc. etc. Gyar Gyanam, Yataj Gyanam Matamama. Krishna said, this is knowledge. Yataj Gyanam Matamama. Knowledge. This is knowledge, according to my opinion. And what is knowledge? When one understands the difference between etc. and etc. Gyan. The field of activities is known as the etc. or the body. Etc. Gyan means the knower of the body, the knower of the field. And Krishna explains there are two knowers of the field. One is the jiwa, the individual soul, and one is Krishna, the supreme spirit soul. Yeah. But between the two, Srila Prabhupada explained in the purport of text number 3, if I'm not mistaken, of 13th chapter, that actually we know only about our body, but Krishna knows about everyone's body. And then even we get the privilege to know about our own field, our own body, still our knowledge is limited. For example, if we eat, do we really know what is going on with the food inside our stomach? Theoretically, maybe we know because we study biology in the school, right? But exactly, do we really know? Do we really conscious what is going on here after the food pass our throat? We don't know, right? We don't know. We just eat it. We just chew, swallow, and that's it. And the rest, we don't know anything about it. Yeah. So we don't know. That's the proof that our knowledge, even about this body, is limited. And then when we get sick, we go to doctor, we consult to the doctor because we don't know what is the problem here. What is the problem with this body? If we know the problem, then we know the solution, right? That's second thing. And then another proof of our knowledge is limited about this body is that suddenly we find our hair grow long. Suddenly the nails grow long. We don't realize it. After 3 or 4 days, suddenly we see, oh, it's long, time to cut now. But are we really conscious? Are we really knowing what is exactly going on here? No. Yeah, we don't really know. So therefore, Krishna as the spirit soul, as the supreme super soul is known as Vibhu. He's great, great in the sense of in size, in quantity, and also in his ability to know everything. Therefore, Prabhupada also mentions here he's omnipotent. But we, Anu means the particle, part, little spark. So also our knowledge is limited. So Krishna is not responsible for our sinful activities, but we responsible for that. Although Krishna sanctioned, still he warned us before he sanctioned. Text number 16. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Yeah. Krishna Surya Shama Maya Haya Andaka Yahan Krishna Tahanahi Mayara Adika. That verse is very much connected with this. Knowledge is always highly esteemed. And what is that knowledge? Perfect knowledge is achieved when one surrenders unto Krishna. Real knowledge can be obtained from a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. Therefore, one has to seek out such bona fide spiritual master and under him learn what Krishna consciousness is. For Krishna consciousness will certainly drive away all nations and sun drives away darkness. Yeah, pure bhakti, drive away Maya, yeah, drive away darkness. Um, Again, in the 13th chapter, nicely explained by Krishna from text number 8 to um, text 8 to 12. Yeah, there are 5 verses combined together. So these are 20 items, 20 process of knowledge. Yeah, 20 processes of knowledge. It starts from humility and then pridelessness, and it goes on ultimately to realization of the supreme soul. Yeah, but amongst these 20 items of knowledge, 20 processes of knowledge, Krishna explained that bhaktir avya vicharing, or devotional service, pure devotional service, is actually the main point of this process of knowledge. Prabhupada explained, without devotional service, all 19 processes of knowledge is actually useless. Harawa bhaktasya kuto mahad guna manoratena satidavato bahihi. Yeah. A non-devotee may possess good qualities, but uh, harau abhaktasya kuto mahad guna. And then what is the use of simply having good qualities without developing love for Krishna? Because having good qualities is not enough to save us to cross over the material existence. Yeah. So bhakti is the main thing amongst these 20 processes of bhakti. Processes of knowledge. Yeah. 13.8 to 12. You just read the translation. Prabhupada gives long purport. Yeah, it's nicely explained there. Yeah, knowledge is enlightening. Yeah, knowledge, gyan is enlightening. Yeah, Prabhupada explained just like the sun. As soon as the sun rises, so darkness immediately dissipated. Kechit Kivalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana Agam Dunvanti Karsnena Niharam Iha Bhaskar. So Niharam Iha Bhaskara, just like especially during winter time here in Mayapur, we have like very thick fog in the morning. Yeah, very thick fog in the morning. But as soon as sun is rising, so this fog is dissipated. Niharam Iha Bhaskara. Yeah. So that's about transcendental knowledge help us to overcome these nations. So that part, that was the part, the first part of our today's discussion is about the relationship between Iswara, Jiwa, and Prakriti. So the Jiva, again, the Jiva, the pure living entity, doesn't create any activities. All activities is done through the nature, Prakriti, three modes of material nature, by the sanction of the Ishwara, Krishna. But although it is sanctioned by Krishna, he is not responsible for our pious or sinful activities because ultimately we get the independence. Okay, Srila Prabhupada gave the example just like a small child, you know, who's crying for something which is forbidden. Yeah, for example, like 1 or 2 year old child, whenever he or she a fire, candle fire, got attracted immediately, gets attracted immediately. But parents said, no, 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 don't touch it. But still, he's being innocent. He wants to touch that fire. And then he crying like anything. And then the parents said, okay, I told you don't touch it. But if you touch it, you're responsible for the reaction. So similarly, we, the Jiva also, we don't create activities because we are totally aloof from the body. Only the body can act, right? We act, the spirit soul act through the body. Yeah, but the spirit soul remain aloof. But when something happened to the body due to attachment, we feel the pain. Yeah, that's the thing. We feel happiness and also both happiness and pain. Yeah, so Krishna is not responsible, although he sanctioned. That's the relationship here between Iswara, Jiva, and Prakriti. So through the agents of Prakriti, material modes of nature, we perform our activities. And then the next discussion, Krishna now will be explaining about the vision of a jnani or Paramatma Vadi, one who can see the super soul in every living entity's heart. One who is fixed in the knowledge of the relationship between the living entity, material nature, and the super soul takes shelter of the super soul, becomes enlightened, and attain liberation. A Krishna conscious person enjoys unlimited pleasure within himself by fixing his consciousness on Krishna, always busy working for the welfare of all beings. He soon achieves liberation. Okay. So text number 17. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge all are fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Srila Prabhupada explained, one whose mind, intelligence, faith, and refuge are always in Krishna, or in other words, one who is fully in Krishna consciousness, is undoubtedly washed clean of all misgivings and is in perfect knowledge in everything concerning transcendence. Yeah, misgiving. Misgiving means doubt. We have so many doubts, yeah, a lot of misgivings. But when one's mind is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, yeah, uh, what is that? A very nice verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. This is described. Uh, Ksyanti chasya karmani drishta evat manishvari. Yeah. Ksyanti chasya karmani drishta evat manishvari. That's the the third and fourth line. Anybody remembers how is that verse start? Uh, Darajastamu Baba Kamalupada Chipta Itai Navidams. Prashana Manasu Bhagavad Bhakti Yoga Tattva Vijnana Mukta Sangashi. Vidyate Hridaya Grantis. Vidyate Hridaya Grantis. Chidyante Sarva Sangsaya Kshanti Chasya Karmani Drishta Evat Manishwaya. So this is the result of hearing, actually, hearing of Krishna Katha. Vidyate Hridaya Grantis. So all the bondage, Hridaya Granti, bondage, the knot in the heart, yeah, Hridaya Grantis. And then Chidyante, Sarva Sangsaya, all doubts, all misgivings is actually terminated, is actually cut off by the process of devotional service starting from hearing. Ksyanti Chasya Karmani, and all the result of one's activities, yeah, karmic reaction. Ksyanti Chasya Karmani, Drishta Evat Maneshwari, is destroyed as soon as one see the self as master. When one see the self as a master, what does it mean? One see the self as a master. So Drishta Atmanishwari. Atma, the word Atma translated there as Srila Prabhupada as the self. But the word Atma can have many meanings. Yeah, Atma can be senses, Atma can be the body, Atma can be mind, Atma can be the jiwa, spirit soul, and Atma also refers to Krishna. He's the Param Atma. So when we see Krishna as our master, then all these, doubts, attachment, and karmic reaction will be destroyed. Yeah. Therefore, here Srila Prabhupada, and actually Krishna also explaining here that when one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge all fixed in the Supreme, that means we are engaging ourselves in the service of the Lord. Yeah. We will be cleansed from all misgivings, from all doubts. Then text number 18. So this is exactly describing about the Paramatma Wadi, one who sees Paramatma resides in everybody's heart. Yeah? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmaniga Vihastini Sunichaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, or the outcast. There are a few things that we can learn from this verse. Is that first of all, Vidya and Vinaya, they are go along together. Yeah, knowledge and Vinaya means humility. Yeah. Just like rice, just like paddy. When the rice bear some grains, yeah, the more grains it has, so the body, the tree of the rice becomes bent like this, bent down, just like mango fruit, mango tree, for example, during mango season. So the branch, which is full of fruits, automatically goes down, bend down because of the heavy. So similarly, a person who has knowledge is actually naturally becomes humble. But sometimes we see that those who seemingly have knowledge, they become so proud. So this is not the not real knowledge actually. It's just information. It's just information. But devotee who has knowledge, who realize that knowledge also, actually naturally becomes humble. Yeah. What is the logic here? Normally, any scientist, professor, uh, when they have a lot of knowledge, they naturally becomes puffed up, naturally becomes proud. But but here, naturally, the vidya and vinay, or knowledge and humility, go along together. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada explained the logic is like this. knowledge, spiritual knowledge, culminates on surrendering to Krishna. Real knowledge means understanding Krishna's greatness. Then, when we understand about Krishna's greatness, so we naturally uh, come to a conclusion that ultimately I'm the servant of the Lord. Yeah. Krishna is God, I am his servant. That means servant means remain humble in our position. Yeah. So Vidya and Vinaya. And then a real sage, a humble sage will see that all living entities equally with equal vision. Yeah. Pandita Samadarshinaha. Pandita means a person, a learned person, because he sees the soul, and not only seeing the soul, but also he sees the Parama Atma within that, uh, within everybody's heart. Yeah. So he is also, um, sorry, I got distracted. This devotee sent message. So he sees this the super soul also, not only the spirit soul. So Pandita Samadarshi. So he sees the soul, not the body. This is due to their relationship to the Supreme. For the Supreme Lord, by his plenary portion as Paramatma, is present in everyone's heart. Such an understanding of the Supreme is real knowledge. So real knowledge means understanding that jiwa, that in every material body there is jiwa, and that jiwa is actually having relationship with the Supreme Soul. Yeah, the jiwa is part of the Supreme Soul. Then text number 19: those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Yeah. As long as one identifies with this body, he is considered a conditioned soul. But as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity through realization of self, he is liberated from conditional life. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction or hatred. Similarly, when a living entity is without attraction or hatred, he also becomes flawless and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Yeah. Yam hina vyatayanti te purusham purusharshava samaduka sukam diram somritattvaya kalpate. Yeah, in chapter 2, Krishna explained about being equal to any situation. Sama sukha dukam diram, especially the happiness and distress. Yeah. When one is seeing happiness and distress to be equal, then so amrita tvaya kalpate. That person is eligible for liberation. Therefore, here Krishna mentioned that if one is equal in any situation, so he's actually already conquered death. That means he's liberated. Yeah, he's liberated means conquering death. And then text number 20. Yeah, a person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the signs of God is already situated in transcendence. Yeah. So the example is like Prahlad Maharaj. Yeah. I'm putting here many pictures of Prahlad Maharaj because he's one of the perfect example describing about this verse. Yeah. He is not rejoicing upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant. Yeah, this is called actually Stitadir Munir Uchyate in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita also. mentioned like that. Stitadir Munir Uchati. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The symptoms of a self-realized person are given herein. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to his body. Yeah. So this is also the description of a person who is in the Brahmabhuta platform. Brahmabhuta platform means that understanding completely that one is not the body. Yeah. He is Prashana Atma, always happy. Na sochati na kangsati. He never lament nor he desire anything material. Yeah. Brahma Bhuta Prashana Atma na sochati na kangsati. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. And he sees everybody in equal vision. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. And then mad bhaktim labate param. And in that stage, actually easy for that person to engage in Krishna's service. Mad bhaktim labate param, developing love for Krishna through devotional service. Yeah. Always prashana atma means always happy. Yeah. In any situation. But for us, like, when we get something unpleasant, we feel so much distress. Nobody is asking for distress, right? In the history, anybody asking for distress? Yes, Queen Kunti. Vipada santuta saswat tatra tatra jagat guru bhava to darshanam yakshat apunar bhava darshanam. She's asking that suffering, please Krishna, give us again and again the suffering. Bhava to darshanam yakshat. Because when we get this suffering, we always meditate upon you and you come and help us. Bhavatu darshanam yashat apunar bhava darshanam. And by seeing you, we will not see in the future the repetition of birth and death. So Queen Kunti is seeing suffering as a mean of liberation. Who can see that vision unless a very highly elevated personality, a pure devotee? But for us, when we get toothache, we complain. We get little headache, we complain. This and that, complain. Always complain, complain, complain. That is our nature. Complaining of so many things. But a person who's above the material conception of life, so he never complains. So one time, Srila Prabhupada, he got toothache actually. Srila Prabhupada got toothache. So one of his cheeks was swelling, was swelling as if he's sucking one big candy, how we suck big candy, like, swelling, looks like swelling. So he got toothache and he was, his cheek was swelling because of that toothache. So painful. Yet at that time, he kept giving lectures. After giving lectures, he meets different people in his room, having some conversation. And then he goes on like that with his morning walk also. He never stops speaking, 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 speaking. Of course, he speaks about Krishna. And then His Grace Hari Sauri Prabhu at the time, who was his personal secretary, told Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I think you should take rest. You should not give class for a few days. And Prabhupada said, why? Prabhupada, look at your cheek. It's swelling because of this toothache. Prabhupada said, it doesn't matter. So the point here is that a person who is beyond the bodily concept doesn't really care about what is going on in this body. For example, if I get toothache, I get a nice reason to not chanting my round. If I get toothache, I'll put down my beads. Okay, relax. I have a toothache. Let me chant my rounds later because it's so painful. But Prabhupada never stopped preaching. Yeah, that's one example. So that's a person who is not in the bodily platform. Yeah, he sees the soul. Uh, So Srila Prabhupada explained, generally we accept a thing's pleasant when it satisfies our senses. We accept it as pleasant, but actually satisfaction of my sense is not real pleasure because my senses are at present moment disease. So disease condition means contaminated by Maya. This is external. So our philosophy, Krishna consciousness movement, is not to stop desiring, but purify desiring. And how you can purify? By Krishna consciousness. If you desire, just like concrete example, if I desire a very nice apartment for my personal sense gratification, this is disease desire. And if I desire a nice costly temple for Krishna, that is purified desire. Okay, so everything should be connected to Krishna. That's Srila Prabhupada's point here. So this is from his lecture to this verse 5.20. Next, 21. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. This way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. The highest pleasure in terms of matter is sex pleasure, Srila Prabhupada explained. The whole world is moving under its spell, and a materialist cannot work at all without this motivation. Interesting. But a person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with greater vigor without sex pleasure, which he avoids. That is the test in spiritual realization. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. I intentionally put this picture of Srila Haridas Thakur, yeah, reminding us the pastime of when Ramchandra Khan sent this prostitute to agitate the mind of Srila Haridas Thakur. So Haridas, being a pure devotee, of course, he rejected to be engaged in sexual pleasure. Yeah. So Prabhupada explained that most of the people work with this motivation. Why I need to have a lot of money? Why I need to have a big house? Why? Because ultimately to attract the opposite sex. By the end of the day, that's the only motivation. And Prabhupada explained the highest pleasure in material life is sex pleasure. Therefore, spiritual advancement and sex pleasure, they go ill together. You have to choose either one. You cannot choose both. I want to advance in Krishna consciousness, and at the same time I want to enjoy sex every day, for example, like that. It doesn't match. It doesn't go like that. So you should choose either one. Yeah. But of course, I believe that everybody is here is choosing to be advanced in Krishna consciousness. Yeah, advancement in Krishna consciousness. But actually, that's natural. Actually, as we are advancing in our spiritual practice, naturally we will become distasteful of lower taste. Yeah. Mm. Param distva nivartate. Yeah. We we get the higher taste. Yeah. Param distva nivartate. Visaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha. Rasa varjam rasopyasya param distva nivartate. So that verse from the second chapter. Visaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha. That means because we have been enjoying the material senses, sense gratification for millions of lifetimes. So the taste, rasa varjam rasopyasya, the taste to enjoy the sensual pleasure is remain there, But an intelligent person will not engage in sense gratification because param dristva nivartate, because he gets the higher pleasure. Yeah, the higher taste. So he gets the spiritual happiness. He gets spiritual happiness, transcendental happiness. Yeah. Okay. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that just as a person eating sweet meats has no inclination to eat mud, so a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure. Yeah. But what about our situation? Are we liberated person? We are not liberated person. So to have material desire seems to be natural for us. Seems to be natural just to have material desire. Yeah. Therefore, Krishna explained again in the second chapter toward the end. It says, Apuryamanam achala pratistam samudramapa pravisanti tadvat kamayam pravisanti sarve sasantim apnoti nakamakam. So just like there are thousands of rivers streaming down to the ocean, yet the ocean remains in its position. Yeah. The ocean never overflowed, although there are thousands, millions of rivers flowing to the ocean. So similarly, a devotee is like that. A devotee sometimes some material desire may appear in our heart, but as devotees we remain santi, sasantim apnoti. We remain santi. We may have material desire, but we don't act on that desire. We don't act on that desire. Material desire is just like a barking dog. Normally, barking dog, they will not bite. They just bark. So don't react upon that barking dog. Just remain silent. When that dog is tired of barking, so he will stop. So material desire is also like that. In our heart, we may have material desire, but the art here is that don't act upon that desire. The moment we start trying to fulfilling that material desire, so we are fall into the trap of Maya, because another desire will appear, another desire, greater material desire will appear. So here the remedy is that just don't act. Take our beats, chant Hare Krishna. Don't act upon that material desire. Yeah. Even Yamunacharya, he's an acharya, right? He says, Yadavadi mamachita Krishna padaravinde nava nava rasa adamanu datam rantum ashit tadavadi mamachita nari sangama smaryamane bhavati mukha vikara sustunisti vanamcha. Who is Yamunacharya? Yamunacharya is one of the alwars of the Sri Sampradaya. Alwar means the Acharya of the Sri Sampradaya. He is the spiritual master of Ramanujacharya. Yeah. But Yamunacharya, he was a king before he becomes a sannyas, before he becomes an Acharya, he was a king. So when he says that Yadavadi Mamachita Krishna Padarinda, now because I have so much taste to think about Krishna, to engage in Krishna's service. Yeah. So whenever thought, Nari Sangama Smaryamani, whenever thought appear enjoying with the woman, Nari Sangama, Nari means woman, enjoying with woman, my uh, I become disgusted and I spit in my thought. That means what? He's an acharya, but sometimes he also think about sex. This is because previously he was a king. So when he was a king, he gets all types of enjoyment. Yeah, king never have one wife, at least 10, except Ramchandra. Yeah. In history, only Ramchandra has one wife. If you see any other kings, they will have many wives. So he got all types of enjoyment, especially sexual enjoyment. Therefore, the samskar is remain there in his mind, even though he becomes a pure devotee, samskar. Prabhupada explained in one place that even a pure devotee sometimes have material desire, but he will not act upon that material desire. Yeah. So Yamunacharya, sometimes he thinks about sex, but he becomes disgusted. He will not act upon that. So that's the art here. That's the art. Like barking dog. When the dog tired, will stop automatically. Text number 22. Yehi sanspar saja boga. This is another famous verse. Yehi sanspar saja boga. Duka yonaya evate. Adyantavanta kauntiya natesu ramate buddha. So the intelligent person will not take pleasure in sense gratification. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery. Dukkha yonaya. Dukkha yonaya means giving birth. Yoni means giving birth. So dukkha yonaya. Dukkha take birth from bhoga or sense gratification, enjoyment, material enjoyment. Yeah. The sources of misery, which are due to contact with material senses. Some sparsa means contact. Yeah. So how we derive material pleasure? By the contact of the senses with the sense object. Osano Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, adi and anta. And so the wise man does not delight in them. Yeah. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasure, which are the cause of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. Yeah. I put here the picture of Rishabhadev actually. Very nicely, Rishabhadev giving instruction to his 100 sons in the 5th canto. Yeah. Nayam deho deha bhajam riloke kastan kamand arhati vid bhujam ye. So this sense gratification is meant only for the vid bhujam, stool eater. Stool eater. We are not stool eater, right? We have higher purpose to get this human form of life. Yeah, we have a tangible goal in life. Yeah. Therefore, he also explained, Nunam Brahmata Kurute Vikarma Yadindriya Pritaya Aprinoti Nasadumanye. Same thing here. Nate Suramate Buddha. That means intelligent person doesn't really delight in sensual pleasure. So Nasadumanye Yatha Atmanoyan Asanapi Kleshada Asadeha. So Nunam Pramata Kurute Vikarma. When a person becomes mad of Indriya Priti, means giving pleasure to his material senses, he becomes mad, and then as a result, he's acting against Shastra, Vikarma. Yeah. Nunam Pramata Kurute Vikarma Yad Indriya Pritaya Aprinoti. Okay, because of trying to please our senses, material senses, we become mad. Mad means we cannot see what is what. Yeah. So we act vikarma, means against the Shastra. Na sadhu manye yatha atmanoya. And a sadhu, a saintly person, doesn't take part in sense gratification because asanapi kleshada ashadeha. Klesha means miseries, because sense gratification will give us miseries. Sense gratification will give us miseries. Yan mai tunadi grihamedi sukam hitu cham kandu yanena karayor evadu kadukam Dipyanti neha kripanan bahudu kabajam kandu tiwan manasijam visahe tadira. Another nice instruction given by Prahlad Maharaj. Yeah. Yan mai tunadi grihamedi sukam hitu cham. The materialistic householder, the center of that householder life is just maituna, means sex. Kandu yanena karayor iwaduka. It's just like kandu yanena means itching sensation. Kandu yanena karayor iwaduka dukam. One time Prabhupada was giving a lecture. Yeah. So he was wearing long kurta. Yeah. So he so his arm now. He pulled out his the sleeve of his kurta and starts scratching his hands like this. This is called kandu yanena karayori vadu kaduka. When you get itching, you scratch, you feel so nice, nice sensation. You feel pleasure. You feel pleasure. The more you scratch, you feel pleasure. But the more you scratch, and you will stop. And Prabhupada said, why you stop? It is not because you feel satisfaction, but because blood coming up. Because blood. Therefore, when you get itching, don't scratch it. Better you ignore or give treatment. Don't scratch. Okay. Kandu yanena karayor iwaduka duka. When you scratch, you feel pleasure, but the more you scratch, the more pleasure. And what happened? Finally, you will get bleeding. Then you have to stop. Dukkha. You get the blood. Dukkha. Yeah. Kandutiwan manasijam visaheta dira. And those who are dira, sober, means devotees, they can tolerate the itching sensation. They will not get the miseries. Therefore, natesu ramate buddha. An intelligent person doesn't delight in them, doesn't delight in sense gratification. Yeah. The sadhaka needs to fix this principle strongly in his intelligence. Sense gratification equals misery. As sadhakas, we are sadhakas, yeah, practicing devotees. A sadhaka becomes free from material modes by a combination of intellectual conviction and higher tastes. Therefore, immediately we have to develop ruchi, taste for service, taste for holy name. That's important because when we don't get taste for service, that means we will be easily fall victims to taste Maya. Yeah. Text 23. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. Yeah. If one wants to make steady progress on the path of self-realization, he must try to control the forces of the material senses. Yeah. Vacho vegam, manasa, krodha vegam. These are the 6 urges of the material senses, should be controlled. There are forces of talk, forces of anger, forces of mind, forces of the stomach, forces of the genitals. Jiwa vegam, udaro, upastha vegam. One who is able to control the forces of all these different senses and mind is called a Goswami or a Swami. Yeah. So Goswami. Go means the senses. Go means also cow, right? Go means the senses, and Swami means the master. So Goswami means one who's able to control the senses. But a person who's failed to control the senses is known as the Godas. Means he's the servant of his senses. Therefore, Vacho Vegam, Manasa, Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udaro, Upastha Vegam. Etan Vegam Yogi Saheta Dhira. So a person is known as a dhira or a sober person when he is able to control these 6 urges. Sarvam apimam prativim chasisha. Then he is able to become spiritual master. Text number 24. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme and ultimately he attains the Supreme. Unless one is able to realize happiness from within, how can one retire from the external engagement meant for deriving superficial happiness? A liberated person enjoys happiness by factual experience. By factual experience. Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartum Avyayam. So Pratyaksha means experience. Why do we remain in this movement, Krishna consciousness movement? Because we get nice experience, right? Pratyaksawa Gamam. Pratyaksa. We get the experience. Susukam Kartum Avyayam. And this activities in Krishna consciousness is joyfully performed. Yeah, Susukam Kartum. Susukam Kartum means joyfully performed. Yeah. Why do we remain in Krishna consciousness? Because we have nice philosophy, nice prasadam, nice devotees association. Yeah. We have the best music. We never tired to chant Hare Krishna, right? Because Krishna situated in the absolute platform, so he and his name is not different. Krishna means one who is the supreme attractor. Yeah, he's very attractive. Krishna is very attractive. So the proof that by chanting the holy name we derive happiness is that we are constantly able to chant Hare Krishna for hours and hours. For example, in Kirtan, in Kirtan, we can stay in Kirtan for 2-3 hours, chanting the same mantra, Hare Krishna mantra. And in chanting japa also like that. We are relishing our japa, right? Hopefully. Yeah, Prabhupada said, because Krishna's name is transcendental, so his name gives pleasure. But if you just chant any random names, for example, like Mr. John, who is John? We don't know. But if you chant John, John, how long you can chant John's name? Maybe after 1 or 2 minutes, you will stop. But chanting Krishna's names for hours and hours, day by day, months, years, from the beginning of our joining this movement till now, we still chanting the same mantra. We don't change our mantra. And we're still happy chanting the same mantra, right? He can therefore sit silently at any place and enjoy the activities of life from within. Such a liberated person no longer desires external material happiness. This state is called Brahma Bhuta. Yeah. Nasochati nakangsati. He is not desiring anything, nor do he laments for anything. Yeah. Satisfied from within. We must get a higher taste. It is urgent. We have to hear, chant, and have good association. Otherwise, we will be unable to tolerate the urges of the senses over time. Yeah. Text 25. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. What does it mean, busy working for the welfare of all living beings? That means we preach Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Only a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in the welfare work for all living entities. When a person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Actually, this verse is hinting the last verse of this chapter. Yeah, if you notice, the supreme enjoyer, Bhaktaram Yagyata Pasam, the supreme proprietor, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, and the supreme friend, yeah, Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. Therefore, to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. Okay. So this is the Gyatwamam santim richati. This is the peace formula. Prabhupada is hinting here the peace formula. Why people are suffering? Because they're devoid of this understanding that Krishna is the enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Yeah. Here in the material world, artificially we become enjoyer. Uh, we claim over proprietorship and friends. Yeah. Text 26. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the supreme in the very near future. Yeah. The fish brings up its offering, its offsprings, simply by looking at them. The tortoise brings up its offspring simply by meditation. Yeah. The eggs of the tortoise are laid on land, and the tortoise meditates on the eggs while in the water. Similarly, the devotee in Krishna consciousness, although far away from the Lord's abode, yeah, Goloka Vrindavan, can elevate himself to that abode simply by thinking of him constantly by engagement in Krishna consciousness. What an example here given by Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. So simply by connecting our mind to Krishna, that far, far away abode of the Lord can be achieved by thinking about Him constantly. Yeah, man mana bhav man bhakti. Okay, Srila Prabhupada's lecture, concluding our session today. So this requires little training, right? Not easy to have this vision, Pandita Samadarshina. Not easy. This requires little training. Actually, suppose I have got some dress, black dress. Somebody calls you black dress. Is that cause of anger? Somebody calls you black dress. So this is simply my false identification with the dress that I become angry. Actually, if I am self-realized, self-discipline means not to identify with this body. That is self-discipline. It requires training, of course. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches therefore Trinada Vishnichana. That is smaller than the smallest grass. So everything needs training, needs time. So not at all easy to become immediately a self-realized that, okay, Pandita Samadarshina, everybody is spirit soul. Well, philosophically, we may understand this. Sometimes we are, you know, forgetting or unaware that we are not this body. When somebody insult this material body, we feel the pain. We, the jiwa, feels pain. Yeah. Prabhupada explained in that lecture. If you are wearing black jacket, for example, black dress, if somebody call you black dress, is that the cause of anger? So at this moment, when we are discussing this topic, I'm not the body, so I am ready to be insulted by the whole world. I will not get angry. I will not get upset because at this moment, I'm completely aware that I'm not this body. But in some other times, maybe I will forget that I'm not the body. When something happened to me, somebody called me bad name, I'll become angry because I'm in the bodily platform. So a real sage, the Paramatma Vadi means a person who sees Paramatma within everybody's heart, not only the Atma, but also the Paramatma. So he sees the souls and the super soul, not the body. And that person is actually a liberated person. And the symptoms, the quality of that person is described throughout the slokas that we have discussed today. Okay, just to conclude our today's session, that in the beginning of our class, we discussed about the um, relationship between the ishwara, jiwa, and prakriti. The jiwa may act, but actually the jiwa doesn't create any activities. But it is actually sanctioned by the ishwara, the super soul, through the nature, through prakriti, material modes of nature. But when we misbehave, we get punished. And who's responsible? If foolishly we think that it is the responsibility of the super soul, that's wrong, because although he sanctions, but he warns us in the beginning. This is the consequences. And as an independent jiwa, so we have the independency to choose something. Okay. And after describing about that relationship between Ishwara, Jiwa, and Prakriti, Krishna explained about the vision of a Gyani or a Paramatmawadi. Yeah. So throughout these verses that we have learned, that the Paramatmawadi person who can see Krishna within everything, not only within living body, but also within atom. So that person will actually remain peaceful, remain shanti, unagitated, is liberated. Okay. Were there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
Regarding verse 24, Prabhu, verse 24, it is written that one whose happiness is within. It indicates that happiness, whether it is within or it has to be cultivated by the Krishna consciousness. If it is within, that people is automatically very happy, then he can do bhakti or Krishna conscious practice easily. But in case something in practical case, those who are in suffering, so many suffering, it is not there is no environment to doing bhakti practice. In that case, my question is that whether that happiness is within means, is it inborn happiness, or whether it is cultivated? Because this world is the dukhalaya masasatam. Whether any real happiness is there.
Nice question. Thank you so much. So happiness within is actually within. Who is experiencing happiness? Is the jiva, right? Is the jiwa. Therefore, it is called happiness within. That means a person who is um, advanced in Krishna consciousness, he will derive happiness within. That means he becomes Atmarama or Atmarati. Sometimes it is called Atmarama or Atmarati. So he is deriving pleasure through the Atma, yeah, his engagement as the spirit soul, engaging himself in devotional service to Krishna. So he's not trying to get any happiness from superficial outside world, yeah, pertaining to the material body, pertaining to the material senses. But his happiness is within. Is within means happiness within means the example is just like Kolavecha Sridhar. He from outside he looks like poverty stricken, poor, but actually he's always happy within himself. He's Atmarama, completely satisfied. Sometimes people misunderstand when in the midnight he was chanting the names of Goranga. So people thinking that actually he was crying due to poverty, due to his stomach is hungry, but actually he's in ecstasy. Yeah, his house is very simple. Uh, his house is very simple, and he grows some loki sometimes in on the roof of his house. Yeah, so that's real Atmarati or Atmarama. His happiness, he derived happiness within. And regarding another question of yours is that what about environments which is sometimes it is not possible, there are too many sufferings, distress, this and that. Well, ultimately those suffering is pertaining to the body. Of course, this world is dukkhalayam asasvatam, is certified as dukkhalayam asasvatam. Therefore, in one of our discussion in one of the verses is that we have to get out from this material world. That's how we end the suffering, is by getting out of the material world. Even a pure devotee still, because he has material body, still sometimes suffering comes into his life. But a pure devotee will not uh, get affected by uh, by the miseries comes to his life. Yeah. So yeah, it should be cultivated. Ultimately, cultivation of devotional service will give us satisfaction from within. Yeah, because if we try to gratify or satisfy our material senses, That means we are expecting happiness from outside. That will be endless. That will be endless. Just stop it. Just be satisfied within. Yeah. Santustya yena kena va sarvendriyo pasantya cha tushyatya su janardana. So if you want to please Krishna, Janardan, Santustya yena kena, be satisfied with whatever comes by its own accord. And Sarvendriyo Pasantacha, control our senses. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada is quoting that verse. Yeah. Vacho vega manasa krodha vega. Should be controlled. Otherwise, this material desire and material happiness is endless. Yeah. Najatu kama kamanam upabhugena samyati havisha Krishna vartmeva bhuya eva bivarbhati. Nicely explained by King Yayati in the ninth canto of Bhagavatam, that he mentioned Najatu kama kamanam. This kama, material desire, is actually cannot be satisfied by trying to satisfy one's senses. So it's like fire. Upabhogena samyati, like fire. If you think that you can extinguish fire by supplying ghee, no, the fire will grow bigger and demand for more ghee. How to extinguish the fire? Don't feed the fire by anything. It will become, reduce and extinguish by itself. So material desire also like that. Don't act upon the material desire. Focus on our service to Krishna, then we can derive real satisfaction. Yeah. Is that answer the question, Prabhu?
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. Yes,
Yeah.
Prabhu.
All right.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay. Last.
One small, so Prabhuji, this we have discussed that our ishwara material nature is eternal, and you said, of course, what you said is Prabhupada said that karma is not eternal. But in what sense it is sin? Because Prakriti is eternal, and jiwa is eternal, and ishwara is also eternal. So, and the karma, we say nahi kaschit chanamati jatute, the karma is there always. But how, in what sense it's mentioned that karma is non-eternal?
Yeah. Thank you. So nice question. By the way, those who are busy, because time is over, you can leave the meeting, you can leave the class, you get the permission. But those who want to stay for a few minutes, just for discussion, you are most welcome. So there are 5 subjects, main subject discussed in the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, ishwara, jiwa, prakriti, kala, and karma. So the first 4 mentioned, they are eternal. Yeah. But what about karma? They're not eternal. In what sense? Because we can stop karma. We can stop karma. Yeah. So kala, prakriti is eternal. Well, we say that, what about at the time of annihilation? The prakriti is being destroyed. How it is considered to be eternal? When destruction comes, the time of annihilation comes, the prakriti will be absorbed in the body of Mahavishnu and again will be manifested at the time of creation. So the prakriti is not really destroyed actually. It just being manifest. So unmanifest and manifest again. Because the Bahiranga Sakti, the prakriti, is Krishna's energy. So Krishna's energy is eternal. Yeah. And regarding karma, it is not eternal because we can stop karma. As soon as we engage in Krishna's service and get liberation, so there is no more karma. There's no more karmic reaction. Therefore, devotee is known as the akarmi. Yeah, there are 3 types of activities: karma, vikarma, and akarma. Right? We have discussed this. Karma means good activities, produce good reaction, and then vikarma, sinful activities, produce bad reaction. And akarma means devotional service. It doesn't produce good or bad reactions. So karma can be stopped. Karma granti nibandanam chindanti kovidastasya kona kuryat katharati. So karma granti means the knot of the karmic reaction. So when we tie rope, it creates knot, and this knot is called the karma granti, the karmic reaction. It's so difficult to stop unless we perform devotional service. Chindanti kovidastasya. Therefore, the intelligent person will cut off this karmic reaction by performance of devotional service. Chindanti kovidastasya ko na kuryat katharatim. Therefore, who will not get attracted by hearing Krishna Katha, because this Krishna Katha is actually the foundation of our spiritual practice. When we neglect this simple method, this simple sadhana of hearing regularly class on the daily basis, so that times Maya attacks. Yeah. So karma is not eternal. In what sense? Because it can be stopped, can be cut off. Yeah. Karma can be cut off. But Prakriti, although it is destroyed at the time of annihilation, but it just unmanifests and again will be manifest. So it's eternal. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Guru.
Hare Krishna.
So in the spiritual world, that activities are actually the akarmas in the spiritual world. But it is activities there.
Yeah, it is not karma. It is bhakti.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
spiritual
so in that five that the karma is mentioned is actually that karma, not that bhakti karma. No, that is actually the
No.
normal karma.
Bhakti is akarma.
Is it akarma? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, akarma means doesn't produce good or bad reaction. Yeah. And vikarma means activities which is against scripture. And karma means good activities following the scripture, but in the karma kanda, it gives only good punya. You know, it creates material punya. But bhakti doesn't create punya or papa. Sudam apapa vidam. Yeah, pure. Yeah. Bhakti is transcendental, beyond. Okay. And in spiritual world, there's no karma. It's all akarma. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Our discussion still in the 5th chapter, the end of from text number 27 to 29, actually just introduction to the Dhyana Yoga, yeah, of the 6th chapter. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you. Yeah.